Well, hello there, this is old man Tony here again. I hope you're all well. I've been a bit busy over the last couple of weeks doing a couple of things, and one of the things I've been doing is building a new chicken hut for the new arrivals. There's the old one, but these ones were a bit young to put in with the big older ones, so we thought we'd build them a separate enclosure until they grow a little bit. And then move them in with the others. Get on the bike again. Go out and fuel up first, and then I'll tell you about some of the other things that I've been up to. A few ominous looking clouds about, but I'm not going to go far today. So it's the 1st of July today, and it's only 17 degrees, so I don't know who's stolen the summer, but whoever it was, can you put it back please soon? So one of the main things I've been doing is the Bikers for Macmillan sunset to sunrise ride. It's a through the night ride. We set off from Holyhead in the west of Wales at sunset and ride through the night in a huge group to arrive in Skegness on the east coast of England and hopefully see the sun up. So this is all done in the name of charity, so everybody pays an entry fee and then raises some sponsorship or makes a donation to get through that. And those of you who have seen my previous video will already know that I have made a donation. I don't really feel comfortable getting sponsorship for doing things that I like doing. Not really a trial, is it? But good on those who have, because it raises money for a good cause. Now, the Macmillan charity in the UK is a charity that raises money to provide cancer care nurses. So up and beyond what the health service provides, they look after people recovering from cancer or who unfortunately have got terminal cancer, and they make sure that they feel comfortable, aren't afraid, and are getting the best medication that they need throughout their suffering. So I'm sure everybody knows somebody with cancer, and therefore I think it touches most of us at some point or other in our lives. Now, although I said I'm not looking for sponsorship, I will leave the Just Giving donation page details below if anyone feels that they want to donate to this charity, but it won't be in my name. I think it'll just be a donation in the general fund. And the Bikers for Macmillan group, I'll also leave their details in the information below, in case anybody wants to find out more about it and wants to have a go themselves next year on this great ride. How did I find out about this sunset to sunrise biker ride? Well, like you, I watch a lot of other motovloggers, and there was one motovlogger mentioned that he was doing it back early in the year. His name was Little Bit of Biking, and he said that he was doing it and it sounded like an interesting idea, riding through the night, chasing the sun as it goes all the way around the long way while we take the shortcut. So I made some inquiries and found the website, and eventually I made the decision and registered to go there. So I decided to make a weekend of it. So I set off from my house on the Friday, and thought I'll have a steady ride up to Wales and then stay overnight. Well, it was a steady ride up to Wales, especially when I got to the end of, or near the end of the A14, and they closed the road off completely. Unfortunately, there was a bad accident and they even had the air ambulance there, so the traffic was completely stopped. So although I filtered through about 3 or 4 miles of traffic, I eventually got to the front of the queue, only to find I couldn't go no further. So I had about an hour and a half standing at the side of the road, just waiting for them to open the road again. But never mind, just made me a bit late, and I still got there safe. So I headed on from there up the M6 and into Wales via Shrewsbury, and decided I'd take the scenic route across the A5 through Wales, which was a revelation to me because I'm not sure I've ever taken that road before, and it was a great A road through the hills and the valleys, the green stuff and the forests. It's just absolutely picturesque. And then on through Snowdonia, where unfortunately it was drizzling quite a bit, and so that wasn't the most pleasant part of the journey. But I eventually arrived at my little hotel in Anglesey to stay overnight, about 7 o'clock in the evening. It was a great little hotel. I found it through a site that was advertised as biker friendly, I think it was, and this little hotel was called Gadley's, right up in the north of the Isle of Anglesey. Great little hotel, and I'd recommend it to anyone. So after staying overnight in the hotel, I had my breakfast and then tried to relax and maybe have another little sleep until I had to get out of the hotel at 11 o'clock. But by about 10:15 I couldn't hang around any longer and decided to go out on a bit of a tour of the island. So I visited a lot of the sites, including the Menai Bridge, which is a pretty old suspension bridge, and then moved on to the place with the longest name in the UK, that starts with Lanfair and ends with Lantasilio Go Go Go. But I'll stick a picture of the station with the name on it, so you can all work out how to say it. Unfortunately, then the weather took a turn for the worse, and I ended up looking for places to go to keep dry. So I had my lunch in a Kentucky fried chicken joint, and then the weather started to look a bit better, so I got back on the road only for the rain to start again. So I found another little cafe at the side of the road and had a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. Very nice, very quaint, and very much like you would have found 20 years ago, and the prices were pretty good as well. So coffee for £1 and a piece of cake for £2.50 didn't seem too bad. Then it was eventually time to move on up to the RSPB place at Holyhead, and where we were starting the ride. It's a place called Soundstack, and quite a picturesque part of the coastline with a load of cliffs and a little lighthouse and so on, and quite a lot of people bird watching. but I just really went to go and sign on. So when I arrived there, it was still before the 3 o'clock sign on time, so I parked up with a few other bikes that had also arrived early, and then went and signed on, ready for the ride. Fortunately, the ride didn't leave till 9:40, so we had a lot of time to sit around, have a few drinks of coffee and things, and generally chat to people about bikes, biker gear, and all the other things that bikers talk about. Well, as it got nearer the time, I think about 7 p.m, we started to have our safety briefings and meeting our pod marshals and all that sort of thing. And because I was quite late registering, I was down the numbers in the pod, so I was in pod 11, and most of the pods had about 10 bikes in them. Ours only had 4, which made it easier to keep together. So when it came to sundown time, we were all assembling in our groups, ready to go, and I think we set off around 9:40 in the evening. This was pretty good because we all set off together, although we set off in groups, it was one group straight after the other. Headed off up the A55 out of Anglesey and then through Wales onto Chester. Again, this was quite a nice route. By then it was still a little bit of light around, and but as it was getting darker, it was great to see all the other tail lights disappearing into the distance on the roads. First fuel stop was only about 70 miles away from the start, and seeing as I've got a tank range of about 240 miles, I didn't bother filling up then and waited until the second stop, which was about another 80 or 100 miles down the road. I've got to say the organisation was great. They've got some travelling marshals that were getting ahead of the groups and organising the fuel stops to make sure everybody got through as quickly as possible. So the stops were only about between 15 and 20 minutes, I think. We had 3 fuel stops in all along the route, and I filled up, as I said, at the second one, and then didn't need to fill up until I got all the way home, actually. The rain stayed away while we were in Wales, but inevitably the drizzle did start, and we had quite a lot of drizzly weather all through the ride, but it wasn't so bad. I've got waterproof trousers and a waterproof jacket. It was just my gloves that were suffering, and even though the gloves are waterproof, they soaked up the water because the membrane's on the inside, and then your hands start feeling a bit cold. So the fuel stops are useful to be able to change gloves to a drier pair, and I'd actually got 3 pairs with me, so it wasn't so bad after all. But it was relentless, just hammering on, doing the miles over and over again. By the time we got to the end, everybody got something that was aching, but mostly their backsides. Although I did find it wasn't my backside that was suffering the most, it was just my lower back, and thanks to the comfort seat, I think, on my bike, I was reasonably comfortable all the way through it. But when we all arrived in Skegness, it was great to see all the bikes lined up in a car park. This was about 4 AM, so there was nothing else very much about at that time of day. And then we all proceeded down to the coast edge, and had some group photos and that sort of thing, and tried to see if we could see the sun coming up, but it was just too cloudy, and although it was getting light, there was no sign of any sun at that time. But it was great to have finished. The organisers had laid on bacon butties and coffees for us at that early time of the morning, so we just set off back across the road and had a cup of coffee and a nice bacon roll, and basically had a bit of a debrief amongst ourselves, saying how much we'd enjoyed it and whether we'd do it again or not. I certainly would do it again. It all depends on whether I'm available at the time they run it again. But it was a great experience to be riding in a group with about 100 bikes through the night, right across country. And hopefully they'll raise plenty of money for the good cause, of course. The biggest downside to doing the whole ride was that then I'd got another 2 or so hours to go to ride back to my home from Skegness. But once I'd had my coffee and bacon roll, I was feeling reasonably refreshed, and set off home. Unfortunately, that's when the rain really did start to hammer down, and I think it rained hard all the way home, which was about 90 or 100 miles, and took me a couple of hours. And by the time I got home, I found out that waterproofs aren't ever completely waterproof, and although they kept out most of the wet, I think my waterproof boots started letting in a bit of damp by the time we got to Skegness through the drizzle, and then my feet were feeling quite soggy by the time I got home. But I got home about 7:15, 7:30, something like that. So I was feeling pretty good with myself, and guess what? As soon as I arrived home, the sun came out. So, as I said, I'm going to leave some details down below of the Sunsets to Sunrise website, or the Bikers for Macmillan website, which has details of Sunsets to Sunrise. And I'll also leave a link to their Just Giving page if you feel so inclined. But I don't want to put any pressure on anybody to donate any money to this. That's not what this is about. And I'll also leave some details of a little bit of biking. I think probably most of you know him anyway, but just in case you don't, I'll leave his channel link for you. And he was an awfully nice young lad. I think his real name is Dave, and he's the future of biking, and if all bikers are like him, then the future of biking is good. So really nice lad, and you should watch his channel if you don't already do that. So I think that's probably enough from me on this. This has been Old Man Tony. Goodbye.